Mic's on?
Mic's on, nobody's home.
Mic on.
Any citizens? Going once, going twice. Then we'll go right into the board committees, school forest.
You want me to just paraphrase? School forest, we did the outside walk around. Had a nice gaggle of people. I think the Keeman kids saw more of the school forest and a lot of the stroller, but that a lot of the public has seen, so it was good. We went down the trails, made decisions or at least discussions about what we should plant, where we should plant, what, you know, with trails. I mean, again, it's a financial decision. We talk about new trails and that's difficult. We talk about, you know, planting certain trees as snow buffers. That's a difficult decision, but for the most part, I think it was a good evening, good event, and gives you a little perspective on what we got going out there. Other than that, from a specific nature, I don't think we made any real decisions about something that I know we talked a little bit about the cross-country skis and tried to get that into the school curriculum a little better, and we talked about putting curriculum issues more in front of the teachers, so we had a good discussion with some teachers who were there and with some administrators who were there. But all in all, just one of those you need to do about once a year, just get everybody out there and actually see what this thing is that we talk about.
Yeah, I think it's good to have the buildings and grounds staff part of that.
Yeah.
Too, just since they do play a pretty big role in helping us out too. We talked about some crossing issues, and I think that's something we'll maybe pursue a little bit more, just safe crossings at getting from the school to the school forest. So I have a report now to read.
You guys had good weather for your, what you call it, gaggle of people going around?
It was cold. We did have hot chocolate and
When did you do it?
the one cold day we've had it was northwest wind and it was a little chilly, but we had cookies and hot chocolate at the end. But that's about it. I did get out there too. I'm not sure that's even a concern, but I, with the help of Dale, ground off those sharp edges on the thing up there, you know, the overhead
Nice. Yeah.
screws and stuff. So, so Carl would be aware of that. He doesn't have to worry about that at this point.
Perfect.
All right, anything else from the forest? We'll go on to policy.
Did you turn your mic on?
The battery must be dead because we had it turned on. We'll see what happens.
We can share.
Which one is it?
That one. Yeah, policy. We got a whole bunch of policies to go over, like a crazy amount. Do I have to read all those policies? Suppose I do, huh?
Or you can say policies as presented.
Oh, I like that idea.
And there's a write-up, and most of them are very benign red line changes, just
A
verbiage. Nothing-
must to shall and shall to must. is
Yeah,
one of
that's why there's so many of them too. We went over them, but I mean, there wasn't too much to go over.
But yeah, and it's just something that we do.
It's a formality for those. There'll be some in the future that might have more detailed changes and stuff. This is the first one.
In terms of that, and I don't want to get into the details of it, but there was one that talked about defining grade level, pre-K, voluntary pre-K, you know, a couple of differences there. I thought we had more latitude in terms of defining grade levels. I mean, did they define beyond that, like what a first grade classroom is supposed to consist of, what a second grade classroom, because it wasn't in that. But if we wanted to change things around, I think of, and the example I was thinking of when I was reading that was, I know Rainey for a number of years did first and second in the same room. Do we have an option of that nature if, you know, if our class sizes got small enough?
Yep.
Okay. And they had middle school defined as any 2 consecutive grades. You need at least 2 consecutive grades, but somewhere between 4th and 10th. So you still have quite a bit of latitude there. I mean, we had issues bringing the 6th grade into the middle school. obviously, you know, at least from the public, they were talking about it, but you could have gone 2 grades lower, I didn't realize that. So, all right.
Yeah, I think a lot of middle schools are typically 5th and up. I know, at least the ones I know of.
My son was in a combination class, 4th and 5th grade, when he was in 4th grade.
And where was that school district? Oh, here?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
So you got the,
Yeah, it's been a few years.
Well, so much for my sense of history.
I'm gonna try this.
Yeah. Keeps the crowd away. Be mine.
Share boards.
yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, that was an interesting digression. Anything else about the policy committee? We're good. Buildings and grounds.
Well, a big part of our discussion was the tour update that we gave on the exterior and interior. And then the halftime custodial position
Yep.
that we'd like to start advertising for.
Yeah.
And I was gonna put that in my report as far as the part-time position on this.
Yeah, we'll
Want
just
to
wait for
discuss
that.
it now, or?
We'll segue right into the superintendent's report.
So in your board packet, you should have got my update. Our enrollment, we're down 3 students, K-12 from September report. We're at 428. Actually up 2 in the elementary K-5 and down 5 in the high school. And I think we had 4 sophomores leave. Staffing update, we have a couple hires on the agenda, and we're working on adding some more teacher and para subs. We've had a few weeks of struggling with substitutes, but we're getting some more people on board. And then the part-time custodial position, part of this is to fill some gaps in the current staffing numbers that we have, but also adding some additional duties that we pay on a seasonal basis. This would kind of eliminate the seasonal piece of it, as far as some of the groundskeeper, the mowing in the fall, and stuff like that. Also, some of the snow removal, and I did meet with Cole Nelson at CCN. As far as some of the daily in-house checks, we would do that in-house. And I believe, depending on the type of winter we have, we would have some cost savings. Also, additional help out in the bus garage is needed. And we're looking at, we haven't budgeted for the bus route that we eliminated this year. So some of those cost savings for that reduction would cover the cost of this position. So I'd like to get that advertised and filled as soon as possible, if there's no objections from the board. Any questions on any of that? Okay. And Gina, I've talked, and I think we can, it's not a budget buster or anything like that, so we'll still have our cost savings. Referendum update is on my report. Since last meeting, did a pancake feed at the Brink Center, presented to the city of Baudette and Williams. We've done a number of news articles. There should be another one going out couple of them going out in this week's paper. And then we've had some radio announcements as well. So I think we've done our best to get the information out to raise awareness within the public and provided opportunities for them to contact us or come to meetings to get more information if they have questions. So, school board handbook. I did share that in the board packet. This is something that MSBA just put together this last year, so this is new. It's pretty comprehensive, and I just need a thumbs up or thumbs down if we want to implement something like this. And I guess what I would do is start inputting the information and bring it back in November and review, kind of like I do with the policies. I put in red line what I've added to it and then get your feedback on it. I think it could be a good tool for the board moving on.
I think it's needed, and I did start reading through it just because I'm like that. I would like to see, like, I think you could almost shorten it in some
Yep.
ways, because we have a lot of policies in place, and what I remember was like being new to the board, not really knowing where to go, but now with, especially with the website being so
Yep.
up to date,
Yep.
that we could say, just see policy such and such is
Yep.
on the website.
Okay.
Go there. And
And that's the feedback that I would like to have as we go through this, things that
Yeah.
you think we can put a link to and reference it rather than making it because it could get pretty big.
yeah, and it is, there's a lot of
Yeah.
narrative in there that, but I think it would be useful
Yeah.
for sure for new board members that, you know, yeah, where do you start?
Any other thoughts on that?
I like the idea of being proactive as opposed to reactive, which is how you tend to develop things, you know, because you have an issue that pops up for whatever reason. And and this is more informal than the policy, which I like, or not informal, but it's more digestible than policy. Trying to go back to the specifics of a policy, it gives you a good overview. I mean, I noticed that they had a dress code, which, you know, gonna work us all a little harder up here in northern Minnesota, but still, you know, there's a thought there, and I know Doug Nosen used to always say that, you know, you're representing, you try to get there, you know, he'd wear a coat and tie every time. Not that I'm saying we have to do that, but, you know, it gives you some sort of a question, or like where Jerem comes in, he doesn't know where to sit, then tell him where he can sit.
It would have the schematic.
Yeah, this is your chair, Jerem.
Although there are assigned seatings, so everyone picks their own and keeps
Well-
going back to it.
And one of the first trainings that I think Boyd and I went to a long time ago, but one of the schools had a folder of stuff that they handed new board members, and it was like, oh man, yeah, I could have used that when I started, because you're a little lost. So
Yep.
I think this would be great.
Yeah, we get stuff, you got a pile of stuff, but it was all state oriented as opposed to district oriented.
Correct.
That'd be nice to have something that has a little color from us.
Yeah.
So I'll start working on that and get as far as I can by the November meeting. And I think as I work on it, we'll do a shared document so you can go in anytime you want to look at it and add comments or suggestions.
Policy committee item, or are you
It can be.
take care of that, or whatever you want to do?
Yeah. A lot of feedback tonight. Must be something in the air. And then I just did an update on the committee list, and you should have a long list in front of you. And I kind of broke down, we've all seen the long list that we do each January. I kind of broke it down as far as what kind of commitment each committee has. Everyone find it? Pile of papers.
Oh, yeah.
It says draft on top.
Yeah.
So I started with the most active committees, and that would be the budget and finance. That meets regularly. Same thing with school force, those are all monthly meetings. Moderately active committees basically meet on a quarterly basis, sometimes more if needed. The policy used to be monthly, but we've gone to more 3-4 times a year. Health and safety, we're required to meet 3 times a year. Meet and confers 3 times a year. Buildings and grounds has been more quarterly, but has been more the last year and this year, just because we're operating without a buildings and grounds supervisor, and we kind of have an interim team put together, so we've met a few more times than normal. And then I've listed the less active committees, like the calendar committee meets once in February or March. Continuing ed, that's a recommended position, but it's basically inactive. They meet usually right after school on Mondays, and that committee goes and approves continuing ed credits that teachers need to relicense. So I listed that one as kind of inactive. Technology, we haven't met for probably 2 years since our last meeting, because we've kind of had a freeze on spending. Transportation usually meets once or twice a year. The arena was more active when the arena was being built. We were supposed to schedule a meeting in August, and I'm still working on that. Athletics, I don't know if we've had an athletic committee meeting. Cabinet committee, we met once last year, or a couple times last year, to work on the worksite climate survey. Otherwise, that was something that was developed during COVID. Back then, we did meet more regularly. Community ed and wellness, I think you said 3 or 4 times. I think it's 3 times a year.
3 times a year.
And then the world's best workforce, that usually is once a year. I listed labor negotiations, and that's almost like an appointment. We split up between the certified and non-certified, half the board on one, half the board on the other. Then I put what I call appointments, because there isn't much as far as meetings. Human rights officer, that's required, and that's to receive any employee complaints. Brick Lay board representative, basically, that's a once a year to attend the annual brick meeting in Bemidji. Unless there is something major going on, we sometimes don't even go to that. And then the legislative MREA, MSBA representative, that's one that I've listed as inactive. I can't remember the last time we had a board member involved with any of those things. Then I see my heading to move down to the next page, but I'm making some recommendations to eliminate or combine. One is the Facilities and Transportation Committee, and this would combine arena, building and grounds, and transportation. We could have 2 or 3 reps on that. Meet basically on a quarterly basis. Might be a little bit more when the bond passes. We have some construction projects going on. So I think we can eliminate 3 committees and make it into 1 committee. Activities and community education, we'd combine the athletics, community ed, and wellness, get rid of 2 committees and make it into 1. I just made up a name because I didn't know what else to call it, and they'll change it. Academic and instruction and professional development, and that would combine the world's best workforce, which is now going to be, what is it now? Academic, I wrote it in here somewhere. It's getting rid of comprehensive achievement and civic readiness. So I combined the technology and the calendar and the continuing ed, and that's where I came up with academics, instruction, and professional development that would encompass all of those pieces of it. So that's my recommendation, and then I've made the revised list underneath there, and I lined out the ones that would be combined or eliminated. The only one I haven't come up with whether we need to continue with it or not is the cabinet committee. So any thoughts on that? And that's something that we can incorporate as we're working on the board handbook. I think we can streamline some of our committees and
Yeah, I think so too.
Are those speakers usually on? Is that what I think that's what's doing it?
I think that's projecting your sound.
yeah, I think the volume's just up a little bit. That's why we're getting the feedback, I think.
Well, I think Billy said there's. Oh, so on the back, there's a max min, so maybe check the ones that are on. They're very old.
And you're getting rid of the technology committee?
He's combining it.
Is your hope that when we get into the new year, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, and reassign these committees, this will all have gelled, or that's your hope?
Yeah.
You're not trying to reassign stuff now,
No,
but when we get into.
by our organizational meeting in January, it'd be nice to.
I think that's a good idea. Taking from my own experience, I also like having like the number of expected meetings in a year, or if there's a schedule, especially if you're like, okay, school force, right now it's Monday, so as we're looking at the committee list, you'd have your committee, your number of meetings, if it's a schedule, and then maybe your like lead staff that are also part of that, because
And probably some kind of definition on kind of what.
yes, that would
what
be
the
great as well.
Purpose of the committee and stuff like that.
And just looking at other schools, they have just 2-3 sentences of what that role is, and you know, then you kind of go, oh, like activities, we haven't had that. Should we? Or if we aren't meeting, then why have it?
Yeah.
You know, so
And sometimes committees are developed ad hoc, and then they get on the list and they stay there and then we wonder, what was the issue when we added it?
Is that what you're looking at with like the cabinet committee right now?
Yeah, that was kind of an ad hoc. We didn't have it before COVID. But we did utilize it for the climate survey. But
Yeah.
maybe there's a different
and maybe you just
venue for doing that.
sign up at that time
Yeah.
who's interested.
Well, that's Robin and Boyd on the cabinet committee, and I would take their input on that, but I'd almost say, if you're not sure, maybe meet one more time and just say, okay, is this something we want to wrap up or address, or change and incorporate somewhere maybe? You know, or don't abandon it yet, because we just don't know what the.
Hence how at this point in time with the staffing levels in the office that we have, I would recommend keeping it, because you can use that cabinet committee as a sounding board for.
Well, and that's where I think the definition is important then.
So
like,
I do have a cabinet committee. We meet monthly, and that's all the supervisors and department heads. This was a little bit more included, more people, included school board.
Yep.
What the core purposes.
I think it's a step in the right direction.
Okay, all right.
And it will put us in a good position for January. And I think, Jerem, you might appreciate, like, okay, as we're looking at these committees, what your role could be,
Yes,
but without having a definition there.
I want to know what it is.
Exactly, yeah.
We can consolidate the cabinet committees that don't meet, or the committees that don't meet.
Yeah. And like school forest, there's 3 on there, but that was because of me, because I was the third one,
With a high interest and a background. in
and
it, so, yeah.
also a current role in it,
Yeah.
just from my work, so that was why that shifted, but I agree, it could go back down to 2. But I'd still like to be on it.
Yeah.
If I'm still here, I guess.
Yeah.
There's that.
So I'll just keep working with that along with the school board handbook, and I'll send out updates as I progress, and I'll do a Google shared document where you can go in and add comments or suggestions. And the last thing I have, I've listed some vacation days I'd like to take in November. So I'll take a look at those dates, let me know if you have any concerns. I will be available, I'll be on call as usual and available remotely as needed, so. That's all I have, unless you have questions for me.
Why are we 4 high schoolers short 4 high schoolers? 5? I mean, general ideas, is that families moving or kids going into homeschool or?
We had a family move.
You know, we had 2, those. We had 2 that moved out of state. I think there was 1 elementary. I'd have to go back and dig on. We've got a few moving out of there.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to pre-K through 12, the whole gambit. Mary Merchant.
Good evening. Elementary teachers with their PLCs have been participating in a Bridge to Read. It's through Serve Minnesota Reading Corps. Nicole Fiala attended a workshop there this past summer, which was free, and she brought the information, and teachers have really embraced the trainings that they're getting from that, and I believe it's like 6 of them they're doing consecutive Wednesdays. And exciting news is the trainings will continue to be free this June, so if other teachers want to go and participate in that, they'll be able to.
One question I do have about the Bridge to Read. In the Bridge to Read, the 2 is the numeral 2. So are they teaching the kids the shorthand type texting?
I don't know enough about it, but I hope not.
Just remember thinking.
I use punctuations and periods when I text, so.
Good. It's like, I don't know. Yeah, doesn't give me a warm fuzzy, but all right. Hopefully it does well.
If it helps our kids in
Yeah.
the reading, it's all good. Our sophomores attended a career day in Grand Forks, which Mrs. Neist and Mr. Kraus were the chaperones for that. Very good day for them. And today we had Brad Hertig here, and he put on 3 different presentations for our kids, K5, 6, 8, and 9, 12, and it was a wonderful presentation. He told his personal story about losing his hands, and he shared a lot about prosthetics, which was a learning curve for the kids, and find the way is like his theme, and it really was easy to hit home with all the kids, because he said how we all have struggles. Some might be reading, some might be math, but it really has to do with, giving it your effort, giving it all, and there will be people there to support you and help you. So wonderful message today. This Wednesday, I'll be attending the school law seminar in Mahnomen, and we are going to send a team of high school and elementary teachers, our PBIS team, to Bemidji next Wednesday, November 6th, for a work day. With PBIS, when we first started, there's an inventory you take, and it has to do with things you're working on with the kids in school, and to really get a feel of, are we following it like ours are, respectful, safe, and responsible? And when we do that inventory, there's opportunities then, because we have our baseline information, to apply for grants from PBIS. So that's another driving force for me wanting to send a team of both elementary and high school Because with those grants, you can apply for separate funding for both the levels to utilize. And then that grant money would be utilized to support the activities that the kids do. And parent-teacher conferences are coming up November 7th and 12th. Elementary schedule those separately, individual set times with parents, and high school just has like open house times unless parents want to schedule individual times. And our Veterans Day program is scheduled for November 11th at 11 o'clock in the auditorium. And this year's theme is service, and we will once again welcome our veterans to and their guests to stay for lunch with us that day. And kudos to Mrs. Crandall. She received a set of books, which Mrs. Schwentzfeld used in her English class, and it's called Where the Wolves Die by Anton Truer. And if you recall, a couple years ago, he was here and did a workshop with our teachers. Very knowledgeable and enjoyable to listen to all the time when I heard him speak. And that is all I have. Do you have any questions? We're all looking at you, Tim. We have
You're good.
questions.
You're good.
Thank you.
Okay. And we'll bring up Sheena with the business office. Usually got to give them a few seconds and then we'll...
Okay, first I will touch base on our current year FY25 financials. Our state aid is currently 4% received. Federal revenues 0% received. Levy county apportionment 0% received. Local revenues 2% received. Food service 0% received. Community ed 6% received. All funds 12% received for the year at $1,111,754.79. For our grants for FY 24-25, we just have the Title 401. That is submitted quarterly. So this month I'll put together our expenses, and the expenses need to be entered in our MEGS reporting system by UFAR's code, and then we're able to draw the funds. So at the end of the year, the UFAR is submitted to the state and the school have to match. For our expenditures, salaries and wages are at 16% expended. Employee benefits are 12% expended. Purchase services, 31% expended. Supplies and materials, 11% expended. Capital equipment, 9% expended. Food service, 12% expended. Community ed, 17% expended. Total all funds, 14% expended at $1,286,198.36. Right now, just through Q1, we are running on track with budget. Keep in mind, the revenues are delayed. We're still receiving revenue for last year, which we financially already recorded and moved back. But right now, the revenue statements that we get for state aid show that it's FY24 revenue. So just keep in mind that we'll be getting more revenue. This month we just received over $200,000 in county taxes. So, but even our expenditures, we are running on track. Normally, your supplies and material and purchase services are higher at this time of year. So we completed budget cuts. We're still trying to keep our spending down, which we're doing. But our salaries and wages and benefits are right on track where we should be. So keep in mind, just July and August, we don't have all the help that we normally do, so our wages will run higher for the 9 months during the school year. We currently have a deficit of $174,443.53, but just keep in mind that the revenue comes a little bit later, especially at the starting of the school year. Okay, so now I'll provide an update on our 2024 audit and where we're sitting at the end of the year. The audit's not final yet. Still going back and forth a little bit with the auditors. I had a meeting 2 weeks ago and we went over a few things. Right now, we're showing a deficit of $85,557.91. We're projecting a deficit of $77,752. So we're just slightly above budget. It's pretty close, but it's still not completed yet. So they plan to provide our final audit update at the next school board meeting in November. So everything should be completed and finished. They felt very, very confident in meeting the deadline. So they still just had a few questions they conveyed back and forth. They reached out to you at all? Not yet. No, but thus far they've been great to work with and great communication, and they're usually jumping back and forth between schools, but they did request a few items last week, but nothing I couldn't answer, so it's going good. The 23-24 CEDRA has been completed. So what CEDRA is the BRIC reports basically where everyone who works with special ed, they're coded on their end, and we communicate and make sure our coding matches. So the BRIC staff is coded and also our school staff is coded. So at the end of the year, everything needs to match. So this morning I logged in to the state website and we net to 0. So CEDRA is completed and matched. And I also sent the BRIC our anticipated expenditures for special ed for 24-25. They did send me their projected expenditures, and then I also conveyed any staffing changes that we had. So that's done. Summer unemployment. I received an email from the state last year, last week. So keep in mind, summer unemployment was effective last year. That was the very first year that it was mandated where staff could collect unemployment. So last year, it was about $25,000 in expenditures. This year, I reported $37,130.89 in expenditures. Last year, the state did reimburse us the full amount. Hopefully we get reimbursed the full amount. It just depends on the state. If the expenses submitted to the state is more than what they budgeted, they'll do a percentage for all the schools. Not everyone applied for unemployment that could have, so I still feel that if everyone applied, it would be well over $50,000 for the summer. So, but it was up from last year, $12,130.89.
And the hope is not the reimbursement of the increase, it's the entire amount of $37,130.
Yes.
And would that, is that what your audit is waiting to finalize? I mean,
No. The audit has actually nothing to do with this. It's just something that we have to report every year. So last year they indicated they would be reimbursing schools for unemployment. This year they say they're reimbursing us. There isn't a plan for this to be permanent every year. It's just an expense that was mandated, and we hope the state continues to reimburse the schools for the expense.
How are we representing that in our budget then? So if we, like this year we hope, and next year they don't even have legislation in place to do it.
Right, they don't.
Full estimated amount, because normally you can levy for unemployment, but this summer unemployment you can't, so that comes just right out of our general fund.
So that
we'll have an extra $50,000 that we're gonna have to anticipate in our budget for next year.
but you anticipate that and you budget it. I mean, it's a, lack of a better term, windfall of $37,000 if the state decides to pay it back to us.
Right. So this year, last year we didn't budget the expense because we knew we would be reimbursed. The same for this year, but we could, I mean, if the state ran out of money, very possible we wouldn't get the whole amount, but as for next year, it's not funded.
Okay.
That could change.
I think districts across the state are seeing the same thing we're seeing as
Oh, yeah.
the increase in submission for funding. So
The state's trying to make budgeting even more interesting for school districts.
And it's not just that too, it's the amount of work that goes into it on my end. You know, during the school year, you have a couple, it's not much, but during the summer, the amount of time that I spend going through all the unemployment requests, and I log in online and everything that I have to fill out and reply to, it's a lot of extra work for the payroll office. I mean, because I have to report the wages, did we offer them a position? There's this big questionnaire, and then we have to do it for everyone. And they get all their data from the quarterly reports that we submit. So, you know, every quarter we submit all our wage information to the state, and then that's how they pull their information. So, based on like how much we pay for anyone that applies. So. Transportation report was completed a while back. I did have one error and one warning. The warning is just a flag indicating that we didn't report students within 2 miles from school, but based on our location, it's true. But I fixed our one error, and so our transportation report's done. Jeff just needs to approve it, so that's good for the end of the year. Jackie is also working on a food service audit. So I sent an invoice listing last week, so now they asked us to pull a bunch of invoices. They're looking at that, and then I'm supposed to receive a data request as a business manager this week. They said today, but I didn't receive it yet today. So the audits continue. So
Who does the food service audit?
that's through, it's through the
It's a little
state.
bit of a combination of Jackie, Jill, myself, because it does include the wellness committee as well. Diane's involved based on educational benefits / free and reduced, formerly free and reduced.
And then that's from the state?
Yeah,
auditing?
yep. So they go through everything in terms of food portions, what's available during school hours and after school hours, how are we using food as reward systems, what are our wellness, I mean, it can be very comprehensive. It's also slightly vague in terms of exactly what they'll audit. But Jackie takes the brunt of it in terms of kitchen stuff. Because it does include a financial audit also, doesn't it? Yeah.
Which I haven't seen anything yet. But
No,
it's coming.
Yeah, November 12th, I think or 23rd is the date that our window opens, November 23rd, and then they will be here December 12th, in the building, December 12th.
Yeah, so that's all I have from business office. Any questions? Okay, thanks.
And that, of course, leaves Sam with athletics and community ed.
Hello, Jerem, welcome.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Great.
Good. Good to see you up there.
Thanks.
Okay, so I had an additional sheet I added, yes, the one with the graphic on it is the updated version. I had some things I remembered that I wanted to talk about. First, which you will be actually voting on, is an updated schedule for our game workers. So this includes non-state high school league officials, so like doing JV and or junior high games, anybody working at the game table, ticket takers, announcers, all of the people that it requires to put a game on. When I stepped in, there was a little bit of, I think it was both that I wasn't clear on what the pay schedule was, as well as some people have been doing it for a really long time, and so they were expecting a certain amount of money, and it just was a little convoluted. So this, and we probably should have you as a school board confirm this every year. I'm doing this now. My goal is to do this in the summer, in the future. Doing this now before we pay the fall folks, just so we're all clear on who's getting paid what, and that there's some consistency across sports. So this is the table of a lot of sheets. It should be in your board packet. So you'll see tickets are getting $40 per event across the board. There's a little fluctuation in how many hours they're spending, but there's some consistency there. Table officials for a varsity game are getting 45, for a JV game getting 25. And a little bit more for like line judges who are considered officials on the court, junior high officials and JV officials. But you can see all of the specifics there. I did try and provide some historical data at the bottom of this table. So you'll see how much we're paying out each season for over between 21 and now. This tends, as I pulled this data, it tends to fluctuate pretty significantly. So if you're looking at winter 21 through 24, in 21, 22 winter, we paid $9,800 out to these game workers. In winter of 22, 23, we paid $11,400. And then in 23, 24, we paid $14,500. Those are some pretty significant increases. And I was surprised, had the same look that Corinne's got on her face. I looked back into it. There's a lot of fluctuation that happens based on a couple things. One, the State High School League required the use of a shot clock. And that is a third person at the basketball table for both JV and varsity games running the shot clock. It cannot be run by the person doing the clock or the person doing the book. So now we're paying an additional $65 a night for that person for every home game. And we have approximately 25 to 26 home games in a year. Number of junior high teams. So if we have 2 boys and 2 girls junior high teams, we pay $50 per ref. So you're talking $100 per game. If you have a second junior high game because you're doing 7th grade team and an 8th grade team, now you're doubling what you're paying for each of those home games. So my point is, if you want to go much deeper into these numbers, because I agree there's a lot of fluctuation, that's some of the surface level rationale. I can definitely piece through more of that if you want more specifics. I will also say some of this, this is just expenditures. It does not include any revenue. So like if we host a playoff game, we pay for those to work. So like the home game last Wednesday, we pay everybody to work that game, but then I submit a report to the section, Region 8, and they reimburse us. That revenue is not reflected here. So, anywhere from $400 from Wednesday for our game workers will get reimbursed to us on the revenue side of things. Are there any questions on any of this? It's a lot of information to digest. Yeah.
Is this a change from last year?
Not significantly, no. There's a couple of $5 changes in there, as in I separated out varsity and JV. So if somebody is doing a varsity and a JV game, they're now getting $70. I think they were getting $60 last year. But there are situations in which they're only doing a varsity game because we don't have a JV game. And so that got a little funky because I only had one rate for some people. So I think that my hope is that it'll be pretty consistent in terms of cost. It's just clearer what each person is getting for what they're working. One of them is volleyball. We had somebody doing book for varsity, but not JV. Sometimes it's the manager, sometimes it's somebody who's working, and this is, my hope is like, okay, if you are only able to do varsity, this is what the, so there are a little bit of increases.
Did you add any paid positions?
Shot clock was last year, but nobody added
Okay.
here. No, not since last year. No. Any other questions?
And then in like,
There's a lot of blank spots for junior high.
Yeah, so like tickets, we don't charge for tickets for junior high.
Sure, and you don't have table official?
No, we have our other junior high, either other junior high kids do it or varsity kids do it. We do not pay line judges for our junior high volleyball games. The 7th and 8th grade flip, which I appreciate. We also don't pay refs for our junior high volleyball games. The coaches switch, which I appreciate. It's a little harder to do with basketball because you need 2 refs. You need 2 paid officials in that game. But so yeah, there are some situations in which we're actually not paying somebody and it's being done volunteer, but more so as a part of the program. So clock for junior high basketball is always done by either a varsity player or a junior high player. Anything else?
I think it's a really good idea to have this scheduled out and to do it in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, and like I said, I should be doing this in the summer,
Yeah.
but I think this is, when anybody asks what they're getting paid, it is not by sport, it is by sport, but it's a little bit more consistent across sports. Makes the upkeep of it too, Sheena and I go back and forth on this a little bit easier in terms of the rates. So, okay, you can process that and come back to it if you want. I'm gonna keep moving. Figured I should be giving you an update on college and career readiness. With the shift in job descriptions over the course of the last year, I took on, we're calling it College and Career Readiness Coordinator, right? I don't know, that's a title assigned by Mary and I. Essentially, I'm kind of overseeing some of the admin on college and career readiness. And those things include, we've got a senior class tracking document. It is as simple as an Excel document where we've got all the seniors listed and we've got all of the things that we want to make sure the bare minimum that they should get over the course of their senior year. One of those things is a presentation from Shelley Papera about their Dollars for Scholars opportunities. One of them, another is their actual Dollars for Scholars application submitted. Another is Gretchen Mamel doing a FAFSA presentation. Of course, that doesn't apply to everyone. Not everyone will fill out a FAFSA application, but we at least want them to have heard about it so that if they do choose to go whatever route, then they can do that. So I think it's a good point of tracking for all of us as admin to say, has somebody spoken to this kid about what they're doing? Have they gotten all the kind of boxes checked? So that we can say some accountability for us in terms of we are giving them the information necessary to be successful after this year. So encouraged about that. Like I said, Shelley Papera, Gretchen Mamel are doing Dollars for Scholars and FAFSA. They did a presentation to the senior class via TJ Frerich's government class. What was that, a month ago? A couple weeks ago? Did a kind of attendance to make sure who was there and who was not there, because we've got some PSEO kids who were in the room. So we'll kind of make sure that those other kids get it. We are going to do a post-secondary booth at conferences. So myself, Gretchen Mamel, Shelley Papera are going to have a booth set up at conferences so that and we'll advertise it to parents. If parents want to come through and ask questions of us about their kids' time after high school, we will be there to answer questions, hopefully. So a little bit of physical presence, which we're hoping people will take us up on. Anybody coming through to do a college visit gets posted to this very nice Canva graphic I've created for you. This goes on the TVs outside. It's updated whenever kids, colleges are coming. I also email teachers and students for when those days are so that we're reminding them. I will say, one of the challenges I faced is that I can put a lot of information in front of people. I can put it on TVs, I can put it in email, I can put it in blah, 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 blah. getting people to show up to those things is a little bit of a different thing. So we had BSU here today, and I didn't check in at the very end. I'm not sure there was a strong show up. And that is a school that a significant portion of our seniors and juniors will likely apply to, if nothing else. So the question I'm asking myself is like, okay, I've notified people, but do I have to say, Jerem, you need to be there. Even if you don't know what question to ask, even if you don't know, even if you're not going to apply, you got to go just to start the process. So I'm still figuring that part of it out. What's the show up factor for those kids?
I'd say, and you're outgoing enough that you could do it, and you're probably around enough that you go, Leah, you should go talk to the BSU. They would probably do it even if they really don't intend to. So it depends if your goal is to keep the person from the college, like have people showing up, then yeah, in the direct invitation was probably the most effective. If you're not worried about it, then the kids, they're supposed to be big kids and can figure it out on their own.
Well, and that's the next line for me is like, we're talking college, right? If you are not taking advantage of the things we're putting in front of you, then.
I've seen that with college students too, like at career fairs.
Yeah.
That you have to go and be like, hey, I see your badge, you're an engineer. You need to go talk to that guy over there.
Sure.
You need to go to talk to that person over there. Where they would just kind of walk by and kind of nod.
Yeah.
And I can see that with the
Yes.
high school students too.
Yeah.
Unless you're like, hey,
Sit down.
yeah, go check this out. This is for
Yeah.
you. So,
Yeah. So I appreciate that. That's the line I'm trying to figure out is how pushy do I be? Because I am around and I do have time and I'm starting to get to know what applies to whom. But also I want some accountability too. Like that's the other line I'm working on. It's like, okay, if you want this, you gotta kind of step up at this point because I really can't fill your FAFSA out for you. Like there's a pretty easy line there for me. So we're talking like pluses and challenges. I think I'm doing a good job of sharing information. I haven't quite figured out how to get people to show up to that stuff. So.
We run into that with parents on other things as well.
Sure.
But is there a tangible box you could check with a parent, say, we have contacted this kid's parents too, and said, we've told him or her or whatever, but they need to go to BSU, they're gonna be here today. I mean, you don't wanna do it on every individual one, but somehow do you know, get a parental commitment, or at least somewhere from the 4 or 5 of you, you or Gretchen or whoever gets stuck with that, and say, your kid needs to do this. And, you know, he's not gonna have that many opportunities, so here they are for the year, we're gonna have these 3 things. So at least one time we've incorporated the parent into that equation.
Yeah. And I think I have been, as part of these, I'm not trying to spam parents' emails, but I am trying to email them as well to say, here are the opportunities. MDE is putting on FAFSA clinics, virtual FAFSA clinics, throughout the month of October. Go check these out. Even if you don't show up for the actual Zoom meeting, there are all sorts of, you can get the recording and the information afterwards. So trying to clue parents in, I think, is a helpful, because those who care about not paying for their students' education potentially will, and when I say not care, as in they want to apply for FAFSA and want to get some loans, they will encourage their kid to show up to that stuff. So, okay, I'm going to try and update you somewhat regularly on that stuff too, because I know it's been a point of how are we trying to keep that ball rolling with our students. The other one, which Jerem, you're actually going to get a shout out on this next one, Marvin collaboration. I went to a meeting at Marvin Windows with a group of people, including the Warroad principal and some guidance counselors, the Roseau principal, and I think it was just him and myself. Marvin is working on trying to make stronger connections to local schools. Obviously, they have connections to Warroad in various ways, but it doesn't always mean career education. And so they're trying to think about a curriculum, perhaps, I think is a possible word for that, in terms of how does Marvin offer career education to these schools as well as getting some mutually beneficial connections with our students that might result in jobs for them at some point, for the students, but also for Marvin. So on December 18th, I'm taking 3 juniors to a test case Marvin tour. I have never had a tour of the Marvin plant, which I'm quite excited, but we'll do a tour of the Marvin plant. We'll have lunch with various employees. We'll also do a tour of headquarters. And those 3 juniors are going to give us feedback about how would this be effective for a 10th grader, and what do I need to know going forward. So we're excited about that, with the hope of developing a kind of 3-year 10th, 11th, and 12th grade experience for all of our students, Lake of the Woods, Warroad, Roseau, which is cool on Marvin's part. I'm excited that they're understanding that this is a more regional endeavor than just Warroad. So was excited about that. A couple other things on that front. They have created a community, you're going to have to help, community committee, Lake of the Woods community
Oh, yeah,
group.
yeah, something like that.
Something like that. It's a couple of Marvin employees who are sitting down to think about ways that Marvin can benefit the Lake of the Woods community. One of which that's been kind of at the top is robotics. Robotics for us is a tough one because it requires a lot of funding. Also requires a very specific type of knowledge to be a coach. And so we have some connections at ANI that are interested in potentially doing that. Marvin is also interested in supporting us in that way. And I don't know, Jerem is on that committee, that's why I'm giving him a shout out. Do you have anything else you want to add to that?
No, but there's been a lot of different conversations around getting into the school.
Yeah.
Helping out with that, robotics, along with like career opportunities that younger folks don't understand that we have there. It's not about just putting a screw into a window all day long. There's a lot more in the background with like research, all sorts of different things that go on. But
well, human resources or graphic design or
R&D,
call center, right?
R&D, engineering, CNCs. I mean, those are huge. We have robotics and all sorts of stuff.
So I think when I say career education, using Marvin as the international company and significantly, like huge company that it is, to offer our students access to different avenues, including the plant, right? And including opportunities that, if that's a good fit for you, as well as other places. So excited to see where that goes. Winter activities, we're having a winter activities meeting at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, August 30th. That's the usual. Any other questions about any of that?
Is that winter activities meeting, it's mandatory?
Yes, mandatory, gently mandatory, right? Like I'm never punishing anybody if they don't show up. If you have other commitments, usually I ask that you let me know and I give you other information. I'm aware that there is a church group that meets at 5:30. Our agreement with ministerium when I say agreement, that's a very loose term, has always been 6 o'clock. Like I said in my email, am happy to reevaluate that. If we think that there is a demand to move that time earlier, that would be just fine with me, but I just have to know. I am usually very good about respecting that, and even in this situation, if people need to go at 5:30, I'm not stopping them, right? They can leave and I will get them the information as needed.
And it's a one-time meeting for the
season,
so.
And I understand that my knee jerk is typically a Wednesday afternoon because I know that there's usually nothing else conflicting, whether it's a playoff game or dance practice or scouts, there's stuff that's not even on the school calendar that I try and avoid. So I can do better to maybe find a different night, but yeah, so. Keep me posted if you hear more feedback from the community about that issue. Sure. I'm happy to hear more about that, so.
I think the 6 o'clock Wednesday during the season.
Yeah.
Work committee here.
Yes.
I think the only complaint this time was we're not during the season.
Right. Yeah.
But when season starts, Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays,
right.
30 soccer games and stuff like that. So
And I will say, we as Northwestern Minnesota, that is not just this school, but Northwestern Minnesota have been very good about reserving Wednesday nights for church. As in, the Region 8A was apologetic that they have to do last week's volleyball game on a Wednesday. You know, they understand that communities are still reserving that time for church activities. I don't get requests to schedule games on Wednesdays, right? So all the other schools we're playing are also abiding by that kind of Wednesday evening no-go. Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Anybody got anything else? Otherwise, we'll adjourn the working session. Anybody need a break? Okay, hearing none. Gotta get my cheat sheet. We will call to order at 7:06 p.m.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And let's see, we'll do the swearing in. And how, right there, what do you want, what's normally done? We bring them out in front, hold and pony show? Stay right there. Corinne's got a
You're gonna take a picture of this.
I'm gonna get a picture of this.
I'm moving out of the photo.
Well, if he's getting a picture, you may want to, I don't know, we can figure, however you want to do it.
Go in front of the flag.
Yeah, good night.
Well, big Tim.
Welcome aboard.
We good? All right.
Okay, Jerem, please stand and raise your right hand, stating yea or nay when you sign the acceptance of office. Do you hereby publicly affirm your commitment to the oath of office?
Yeah.
Do you swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state, and that you will discharge faithfully the duties of the office of School Board Member of Independent School District Number 390 to the best of your judgment and ability?
Yeah.
In that case, go ahead and sign the acceptance and oath of office. He's got it? Perfect.
It's the 28th.
28. Okay. Done with the unusual part, and then we'll be back to our regularly scheduled program. I need a motion and a second to approve the October 28th, 2024 meeting agenda.
You gotta make the first motion.
Okay, I'll make first motion.
Second by
First
Lyon.
Motion by Hack, second by Lyon. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any board presenters? Nope. Written communication? Nope. Old business? Nope. Need new business. I need a motion and a second to approve the September 23rd, 2024 school board meeting minutes.
Motion by
Lyon, second by Trask. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I need a motion and a second to approve the invoices, financial statements, bank reconciliation, wire transfers, and purchase card statements.
Motion by Lyon.
Motion by Lyon,
Second by Hack.
second by Hack. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of personnel appointments. Need a motion and a second to approve the resignation and appointment as presented. Resignations: Kathy Weeman, bus driver. Appointments: Kayla Strife, paraprofessional. Jalen Rashke, substitute paraprofessional.
I'd make a motion.
Motion by Lyon,
Second by Hack.
second by Hack. Any discussion?
Kathy Weeman been around for a while driving a bus, hasn't she?
Yep.
I mean, she does a lot of other things too, doesn't she? I know she keeps clock at the volleyball or basketball game.
Did you go into Arizona or someplace warm or something like that?
Yes, this is last couple of years.
Yep.
Okay, this is the one that's kind of planned.
Can't blame anybody for doing that.
He will, okay.
And is there, I mean, does she reapply? Didn't she last year when she came back in March or April?
So we would open and try to fill the position. She understands.
And there's not a formality to it, we're just saying we'll do that. It's not like she's requesting a leave of absence.
No. She knows if we find someone that wants to stay on, I'm fine with that.
All right.
Well, we're happy to have her back since we can't find any other drivers. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Need a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2024/2025-20, accepting a donation of $100 from Ruby's Pantry for early childhood. What's the FE?
Hack will make that.
What's the FE of the early childhood? Family education. Hack.
Second by Lyon.
Second by Lyon. Any discussion? Thank you, Ruby's Pantry. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Need a motion and a second to approve the game worker pay rates for the 2024-2025 school year.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Lyon,
I'll second.
second by Trask. Any discussion?
I think it's good that this is being done, and I would like to see it done in July, August, annually. And then even the comparison if we're looking at increases or changes that we see.
Give her credit. I don't think I've ever seen this come across the docket before, so good. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I need a motion and a second to approve the policies as presented. I'll let you guys read them.
What's the students with IEPs? What is the IEP?
Individual education plan, special education.
So that would be,
Use of peace officers and crisis teams to remove students with IEPs from school grounds.
Number 7.
532. We're just looking for the page number.
You're the
It's
wrong.
number 532. Use of peace
532 right
officers.
here.
Why would a student with an
Yep,
IEP
so
be any
this is
different
then
than
the
a
actual
student with a?
policy.
Oh,
Because they have different protections.
Yep, that's a
And we
state.
So
have had this
sometimes,
in since 2003.
okay.
We have to
And
do
then-
a determination, manifestation determination.
Say that again?
So depending on what their disability is, if that happens, like medical suspension, for example, based on what their disability is, we have to do a manifestation determination, so to determine if it was because of the disability that they were removed or for other reasons.
Who makes that manifestation determination? A school administrator
There's a
or the
team
police
meeting.
officer?
No, there's a team meeting. It would
Okay.
include case manager, we would call our special ed coordinator from Brick, I would be there, classroom teacher, parent.
Which is, because if an incident occurred, there's obviously a response to it. Now you sit down and go, okay, we need to talk about what just happened and, okay.
What went well and what didn't go so well type of conversation, or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially if it's related to the disability.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at your IEP, you can even do different programming to address the needs of
Yeah.
something.
Okay.
Yeah, and then just for Jerem too, to see like
a lot of these, we have in place already, but then the red is new.
It's what the changes that are being made.
Yep,
And
and then there'll
sometimes,
be like a cross-off portion, but a lot of times it is, like, these we're calling non-substantive, so
Yeah,
you
they're
do
very
one
minor.
review, and it's basically a legislative mandate, or it's they changed school resource officer, it was police liaison officer. It's relatively, I shouldn't say minor, but it is in the grand scheme of things. Not
if
like
it
a
was
whole new
major, it
policy.
would go for 3 readings.
Then we do 3
and
readings.
We'd go over it much more in depth. Now, we've had the discussion, let's go back to the motion and a second to approve the policies as
sorry.
presented.
Motion by Lyon.
Motion by Lyon,
Second by Hack.
second by Hack. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That's it in the crib sheet. Anything else that we missed? Going once, going twice, adjourned at 7:16.